Welcome to session 4 of Wake Up Productive. This session is called Building Your Focus Muscles. At the end of the session last week, we talked a little bit about starting to flex your focus muscles and then relax, right? Focus your mind and then relax the mind. We talked a little bit about meditation and so forth. Now we're going to take that to the next level because we're going to be preparing for next week and actually for the next 4 weeks of sessions where we're going to move into a totally different phase. So this is the fourth main session of this program, and it's the fourth week of the inner game of productivity. So let's talk about flexing our focus muscles. So what is focus? What does focus mean? Well, in the sense that I'm using it, I have kind of two definitions for focus, or really there are two facets to focus that we're going to look at. On the one hand, we're going to look at the quantity of focus, the amount of focus, and on the other hand, we're going to look at the quality of focus, right? Or what we're focusing on, what we do with our focus. So the quantity of focus is our ability to focus on one thing at a time. And you remember we talked about the idea of our inner butterflies, right? And the chaos that happens when one of them gets triggered and we go off and we start thinking about a lot of things. That's kind of the opposite of focus. Multitasking is the opposite of focus, and parallel processing. These are the other end of the continuum. What we want to do as we're building our ability to focus is we want to learn to focus on just one thing at a time. And we'll come back to this in just a moment here. So that's the quantity of focus. We want to focus on one thing at a time. We want to extend the period of time that we can do that. Now let's talk about the quality of focus. And in this case, the quality is the thing that you are focusing on. Like, where are you putting your focus? What are you focusing on? And this could even be broken into a couple of different kind of categories or different ways of looking at it, because you can have the thing you're focusing on in the moment, like where you're at right now, and you can have the outcome that you're focused on achieving. See, a lot of times we focus on the work and the activity that we're doing instead of focusing on the results that we're getting. And in the next 4 sessions, when we talk about the outer game, we're going to come back to this idea a lot. But for now, we're just going to get into this idea of building our focus muscles so that we can focus on one thing. We can extend that period for a longer period of time, and a longer period of time, and a longer period of time, without getting taken off onto other things. We're also going to get a little bit stronger here at staying focused on one thing right now, and what that thing is, that's very critical, and staying focused on the outcome that we're trying to achieve, and focusing on the outcome is critical. So we've got the quantity of our focus and the quality of our focus. So I'd like to ask you right now, what is the quantity of your focus? What is your capacity to focus? How long can you focus on one thing at a time? Can you focus on one task at a time for 5 minutes before you get distracted? 10 minutes? 15? How long can you sit at your computer writing something before you compulsively go check your email? Or how long can you do something before the phone rings and you go look at it? How long do you have the capacity to focus right now? What is that? Maybe make a little note of it or make a mental note of it. Other side of the coin. How many different things do you focus on during the day? How many different things? You focus on 3 things during the day? You focus on 27 things? Do you focus on 1,000? How many different things do you focus on during the day? So our objective here is to expand our focus, our ability to focus on one thing, to get to the point where we can focus for 50 minutes at a time. 50 minutes is, I think, the ideal amount of time to be able to focus on one thing. And actually we want to be able to focus on multiple 50-minute chunks with little breaks in between. Now, I got this idea originally from a guy named Peter Drucker, and he wrote a book called The Effective Executive. And in that book, he says a lot of amazing things. It's a book that you should probably read at some point. But one of the things that he suggests is that we don't focus on one thing long enough to actually achieve any results of any kind. We work on something for a little while and then we get distracted, and then we work on that for a little while and we get distracted. We never build up any momentum. So momentum and long-term results actually comes from longer-term focus, from focusing on doing one thing for a longer period of time. And if you don't have the ability to focus on just one thing for a long period of time, you're never going to get any significant results. If you just focus for 10 minutes, that's not even enough time for your brain to get going, for you to get all the stuff loaded up into your head that you need to get loaded up into your head. So you need to expand that focus over time. I'm going to teach you a technique here in a little bit. I'm going to give you some homework because this week is all about practicing this stuff to gear up for the sessions that we're going to be doing over the next 4 weeks. But you got to learn to expand that focus, expand it a little bit at a time to the point where you can spend 50 minutes working on one thing. Now let's jump back over to the quality side and talk about what to focus on. Well, in life, we have different things that we might call our big opportunities, our big leverage points, the place where we could invest and get a lot of return. And typically these are not things, by the way, that are interrupting us, that are chasing us down. There usually are not people chasing us down and saying, you really need to be educating yourself, getting yourself better education. You really need to be learning better marketing techniques, right? These are things we have to figure out for ourselves. No one's going to call you up in the morning and say, wake up today and exercise your body so that you can get yourself into good shape and you have energy to focus on the things that you want to focus on. Those kinds of things don't happen, so we have to do that ourselves. We have to figure out what to focus on. We have to decide for ourselves. All right, I hopefully can bring you some methodologies so you can find those things that are your biggest leverage opportunities, but you are the one that has to make the decision. You're the one that has to take the responsibility. You're the one that has to do it. You have to do it. So as we expand our ability to focus up to 50-minute chunks where it's just focused on one thing for 50 minutes and then eventually stack those back to back with little tiny breaks in between, what we need to do now is figure out what is it that is the high leverage thing in your life to focus on. So if you have a business, there are a few opportunities within your business where all of the leverage exists. If you have relationships with your family, there are a few opportunities where all of the leverage exists right there. If you're working on improving yourself, getting yourself healthier, there are a few opportunities where all of the leverage exists. So what I'd like to ask you right now is, if you focused on 3 things every day, just 3 things, and you spent one of those 50-minute chunks of time doing each of those 3 things, which ones in your life would give you the most leverage? Over a month, a year, 10 years, you would wake up at the end and you would have just an incredible breakthrough. You'd be on another plane of existence if you could just get yourself to do that every single day and do that focus. So what are those things? Take a moment right now, make a list of what those things might be. Just take 2 or 3 minutes, write them down, and then come back when you're done. Just press pause right now, make a list, and come back. Go. Okay, good. You got a list of things in front of you. Hopefully you've identified your top 3. And now what I'd like you to do is look at those top 3 and ask yourself, what would the outcome be? Okay, so I mentioned before you could get a great outcome if you focused on these for a long period of time. What would that outcome be? What would it look like after you did this thing for 3 years, 5 years, 10 years? You did it every single day. You focused on that one thing. What would that final picture look like? And can you make a picture of it in your mind? What I'd like you to do is now go and on your exercise sheet there where you're just writing down some of these ideas, the 3 things you could focus on, write down what the outcome would be for each of them. Just take a minute or 2 to do it. So pause again and write those down and then come back. Go. Okay, good. So now we've gotten clear that we need to expand our ability to focus for a longer period of time. We've figured out a few things that we need to focus on every day. And now what it's time to do is to put some of this stuff into action. I want to go back to something that I mentioned earlier in the program, actually during the introduction and some of the fast starts, where I talked about the idea of the positive focus, of focusing on the thing that we want to achieve, not on what we don't want to achieve. And this bears repeating. Let me just say it again. If you focus on the thing that you don't want, your unconscious mind, it doesn't know how to get rid of the don't part. It only sees the thing that you're focusing on. So if I say to you right now, don't imagine a pink elephant. Okay, don't think of a pink elephant. There's a part of you that can't not think about what a pink elephant is. And like I said before, if you're trying to stop a negative habit and you're focused on that negative habit, like, I got to stop drinking. All your unconscious mind hears is drinking, drink. And that's the programming, and that's what's going to come up for you later when you're not consciously controlling, when you don't have that willpower on. So we've got to get clear about the positive outcomes that we want. And when I say positive, I don't mean, the moral judgment of positive or negative. I mean just the outcome that you want. What is the thing that you want to create? What does that picture look like? When you have the picture of what it looks like finished, and you look at that, and then you go to work, it gives you more motivation to do the things, to do the work, or to put the attention in to get towards that thing. If you don't know where you're going, then you don't have any motivation to do it. So we not only need to have the strength and the ability to focus for a longer period of time, and we don't only need to know what to focus on, but we've got to have the inner motivation, the emotional motivation, and the logical motivation to know what that outcome is and to constantly be putting that up in front of ourselves. Now, one of the things you might want to do is you might want to make one of these kind of goal collages. This is something that I used to do a lot when I was younger, is I'd take pictures of things that I cut out of magazines or I got on the internet and print them out, put them into a little collage, and it doesn't have to be that pretty. So I could just look at that thing every day and say, okay, these are some of the things that I want to create for myself. In mine, I used to have, an apartment on the beach, and I used to have the kind of car that I wanted, and I had a bunch of other stuff. And the very interesting part is that all the stuff that I put into my goal collages eventually came true because I stayed so focused on bringing those things into my reality. In fact, the apartment that I live in right now is at the beach. The car that I drive, I had it, both of these things almost exactly like this in my goal collage, along with a lot of other stuff that has just come to be real in my life. So you get that outcome, and you might want to make it into pictures and descriptions and so forth. In the morning, if you're doing affirmations and visualizations, which I think are really important, they help kind of set the compass and set that motivation. Okay, so building the muscle, getting stronger at focusing for longer periods of time. We're going to work on doing 50-minute chunks. Next, we're going to move on the quality of our focus. We're going to be focusing on what to focus on during those chunks each day. And then finally, what we're going to do is we're going to get the motivation. We're going to get the inner drive, the fuel, the fire, by seeing what our outcome is. Okay, what the big picture is, why we're even doing this in the first place. And then what you want to do is you sit down, you review the big picture, the outcome that you're working towards, so you get the inner motivation. You choose the thing that you're going to focus on for your 50-minute chunk of time, and then you go to work on it, okay? And you work on doing that thing. So let's do an exercise right now that you've worked this muscle a little bit, and let's see if we can figure out a couple of these things to work on this week to get us geared up for the next sessions, which are going to be, a lot more focused on using these muscles. So we're bridging right now from the inner game to the outer game of productivity. So here's what I want you to do. Get out a blank sheet of paper, and I want you to write down a few compelling outcomes, the big picture. What is it that you're trying to achieve? Okay, I want you to write down one that's physical, one that's emotional, and one that's logical. So the physical thing is something you're trying to create in reality. It might be a healthier physical body that's maybe in better shape. It might be living in a particular type of place. It might be having an office for your business in a certain area. Some physical outcome that you want to have happen. The second is an emotional outcome. Okay, and it might be an emotional state that you're in. It might be an emotional relationship that you get into with someone. But what's an emotionally fulfilling outcome that you could describe with words and with word pictures and even with pictures? And then finally, logical or mental. What's a logical or mental outcome that you want? Maybe you want to learn about a particular area. Okay, maybe you want to learn more about psychology. And so you say, I want to understand human psychology. That's the outcome. And you can see that. Or maybe you want to learn some other area, like you want to learn how to play chess, and that's going to be a good intellectual challenge for yourself. So you need one physical, one emotional, and one logical. And what would the outcome be? Okay, it's not just I want to have a six-pack of abs. It's how you feel when you have it. It's all of it integrated together. It's that physical outcome, but it's how your life is different. Okay, picture waking up in the morning and getting up and feeling strong in your abdominal section. And when you go to exercise, you feel strong. And when you stand up, your posture is good. Okay, so you want to really dig in and make it motivating to yourself. So you're going to take a minute right now and write 3 compelling outcomes, one physical, one emotional, and one logical. And let's start with a 1-year goal here, okay? A 1-year outcome, where you'd like to be in 1 year in each of these 3 realms, kind of one thing in each of these 3. So just take 5 to 10 minutes to do this. So press pause right now, write down your 3 outcomes, and then come back when you're finished, and I'll talk to you soon. Okay, good. So that's a very important part of building your focus muscles, is to know what your outcome is. Because when you know the outcome and you review it, that gives you the more inner strength. It gives you the energy to go, okay, I'm going to focus on this thing. And then when you know what you're going to focus on, it gives you the motivation to expand your focus over a period of time. So now I want to give you one last thing. This is your homework for this week. I want you to go pick up a little digital timer. Here's one that you can get online for, probably 10 or 15 bucks. This one's made by West Clocks. This one's okay. I've got a couple of others. You can go on Amazon.com or one of the other websites, and for $5 or $10, you can buy a digital timer that does digital countdown. You can just put in the amount of time, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and you press a button and it starts counting down. Now, I love this thing, okay? And I mean, it's like I have affection for this device. I used to hate the idea of being timed and controlled, but then I tried it and I had a huge realization. If I set this thing up and I set it for 50 minutes and I put it over here and I don't even need to look at it, and then I go to work on a project, I'm free. For 50 minutes, I am now free. I don't have to worry about anything else. I don't have to worry about going long. I don't have to think about, is there something else I'm neglecting? I don't have to think, am I going to go over time and I got to fit this other thing in? I know I've got 50 minutes and I'm freed up from everything else and I can just be focused. It has the weirdest effect. I can't believe it. So I use them all the time now. I've got them, around my apartment and my house. I use them for all different types of things. I even use them when I'm taking breaks, so that I know I take my break and I can completely unplug. I can just chill out and relax, zone out. I don't need to worry about anything. Everything will be okay. And then when the thing beeps, I say, all right, time to get back into the game, time to get back into the mix. I want you to get yourself a digital timer. And what I want you to do this week is I want you to work one 50-minute focus chunk on one thing per day. Just one a day this week, 50 minutes on one thing. Pick one of your areas of focus and just do one of them. Use your digital timer, put it on for 50 minutes, and practice expanding your ability to focus on one area without doing anything else, without thinking about anything else. Just keep bringing yourself back to it. You got to turn off your cell phone. You got to turn off your email. You got to turn off everything that could possibly distract you and work on one thing proactively for 50 minutes. Use your timer. And then next week, we're going to come back and we're going to start into a whole new phase of kind of outer success, outer productivity. And this timer and this technique of expanding to 50-minute chunks is going to serve as the foundation for all of that. So we're coming to the end now. This week is going to be the last week that you're going to be doing your personal success ritual consciously, where you got to make yourself do it every day. You got to wake up and go, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to get through to the end of my 30 days. By now, you should start, feeling a little bit more natural. You should start feeling a little bit more pulled into it. You're starting to get into the acclimation phase. You're doing your water, you're doing your exercise, you're doing your healthy meal. Hopefully you've added to this. You've added a little bit of affirmation and visualization and maybe a little bit of meditation. One more thing you can add, one final thing that I like to do every morning as well, is 15 to 30 minutes of reading. 15 to 30 minutes. Okay, and you can do this at the end of that whole cycle. You might expand your morning ritual, to be 90 to maybe even 120 minutes eventually. Because what this does is now you're making your body strong. Okay, you're getting your heart rate up, so you're renewing your emotions. You're relaxing your mind, you're meditating, you're doing affirmations, you're focusing on what you want. And then you're putting some good, solid knowledge into your mind. I'm not talking about reading candy and junk and magazines and fiction. I'm talking about reading things that will make you stronger. I'm talking about reading some of the books that I'm talking about here. Like go buy Tony Schwartz's book, The Power of Full Engagement, buy Peter Drucker's book, The Effective Executive. I mean, these are the guys that I got the foundation of this whole program from. So spend 15 to 30 minutes after you do the rest of your ritual reading something, getting some good knowledge in your brain to really set yourself up for the rest of the day. So really stick it out this week. Make sure you do that personal success ritual every morning, every single morning, making yourself strong so you can make everyone else strong, making yourself strong first so that you can make the world strong, make the people in your life strong, make your business strong. And then come back next week and we'll bridge over into the outer game of personal productivity. And I'll talk to you then.